I'd like to call to order this meeting of June the 9th, 2014 for the Columbus Municipal School District. At this time, we will have invocation offered by Mr. Glenn Lotzenheiser, as well as a Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lotzenheiser.
Okay, please bow your heads. Father, we just thank you for the privilege and the opportunity that you give all of us to be involved in the work of our school district. We thank you for another school year, Father, and we just ask now that people have broken for the summer months, that you would just watch over them and protect them, keep them safe, keep them free from harm. And I just pray that our personnel and our students and their parents will have good experiences this summer. And we just pray for those who are working even now, Father, to prepare for the new school year, that you would direct and guide them. We ask your blessing on tonight's meeting, Father. Give us the words that we need to say and give us wisdom and discernment to make the right decisions for the boys and girls of our district. I pray for each person here and their families, Father, that you would bless them. Now lead us, guide us, and protect us, for we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Lotzenheiser. Right now, we do have a quorum. Everybody is present tonight. That will bring us to item number 5 on our agenda, request to appear before the board. Actually, item number 4, which is open forum, and we do have one person who has signed up for open forum tonight, Ms. Nicole Clinkscales from the CHS High School.
Good evening to the board and superintendent.
We're going to make sure that the mic is working, and I will also let you know that you will have 2 minutes to share with the board. So you have 2 minutes. Mr. Shannon is our official timekeeper for tonight, and when you hear the little beep go off, then that means your 2 minutes is up. Thank you.
I am going to be brief, and I want to say, dovetailing on what Mr. Lotzenheiser said, we are now in summer break. And so this is a good opportunity for us to look back at some things that we've done in this last school year and see what we can do to make next year better. And that's what you all will be doing in the next few months. To that end, I want to say, when I witnessed our graduation on last month, and we had 64 honor graduates out of 255 students, that is almost exactly 25% of our high school graduating class were honor graduates. Believe it or not, that puts us on par with the national average of high school graduates who graduate with honors. Now, we're used to, in Mississippi, we're accustomed to not always necessarily being at the national average. We're sometimes below the national average. One area where we aren't below the national average, we're severely below that national average, is the number of students, is our student to counselor ratio. And I came before you a couple of months ago and asked you to consider this, and I'm asking you again. I know you're in the process of reviewing the recommendation of all of our personnel. I want to ask you again to please review very carefully whatever recommendations are made from the high school. And if there is not a recommendation made to add another counselor, I seriously ask you to consider doing that. Having just endured a senior year with a senior, it is a blessing, but it's also a burden. And I know that if we had another counselor at that high school who could be solely dedicated to our seniors and not cause the other sophomores, freshmen, and juniors to suffer because we don't have counselors dedicated to each of those classes, I think it could lessen the burden that parents have to endure to sort of make sure our kids are getting scholarships submitted. First of all, know about the scholarships, that we're getting college applications submitted, those kinds of things. Our counselors are they're the experts in that area. And it is a struggle for us as parents to try and make sure that we get up to speed where that is concerned. So that's not the only area that counselors can focus on, but that is one of the areas, and I'm asking you again to please consider that, take a look at that, make sure that we get an additional counselor added to high school.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, we have item number 5, which is a request to appear before the board. First, we have Mr. Jim Mullis to come and talk to us about the indoor baseball, softball facility. Mr. Mullis, Mr. Stevenson, and I apologize that I don't remember your name, Mr. McCullough. And I would just like to say you have 5 minutes to speak during this portion of our meeting. Thank you for coming.
On the district's athletic webpage, it states that Falcon Pride is more than attendance at games. It's an attitude that nothing but the best will be accepted by our students, teachers, staff, and administrators, and community. We agree with this statement and are asking for you to live up to this attitude of Falcon Pride by approving the one-time expenditure of the indoor facility for baseball and softball. Our Falcon has been caged and cannot reach its potential. Tonight, we're asking you to free the Falcon. On the district's webpage under Columbus Municipal School District Policies and Procedures and School Board Operations, Board Operations Goals and Objectives, Vision and Mission. Your goal number 1 is to provide an instructional program that advances student achievement in all areas. Goal number 4, create effective school-community partnerships to ensure quality educational programs. Goal number 5 you list is to provide educational facilities that promote learning, safety, and pride in the community. The statement in your goals and vision policy reads, the Columbus Municipal School District will strive to provide each child opportunities for intellectual stimulation, self-realization, physical and emotional growth in an effort to prepare each child within the limits of each child's potential in order to function effectively as a member of an ever-changing society. We're asking you to live up to your goals and objectives by providing the facilities to promote safety, achievement in all areas, listen to our school-community partnership, establish community pride by giving our kids a chance to excel with equal facilities with our competition, and to give the coaches the tools to reach the potential of our children, as you state in our policy. Tonight, again, we're asking you to free the Falcon. Section K, General Public Relations, Community Involvement, Decision-Making states, community participation in the affairs of the schools is an important facet of achieving improved quality education for the students. Therefore, the board intends to make every effort to identify the desires of the community and to be responsive to those desires. We agree with your policy and ask that you be responsive in improving the indoor facility for our children and free the Falcon. Section F, Facilities and Development. Facility expansion goals and objectives states that the Board of Trustees has the power, authority, and the duty to have the responsibility for the erection, repairing, and improving school facilities, and making the necessary school improvements. Decisions pertaining to the construction of educational facilities will be made only after careful consideration of the viewpoints and needs of the students, teachers, parents, and community. We're asking you to live up to your duty as you stated in your policy. We're asking you to live up to this policy and listen to the administrators, students, and community. The district's coaches have been asking for this facility for years. The athletic director agrees it is a need. The administration staff agrees and reviewed the financials that has been put on the agenda for 4 months now, and you've heard from the community. We're asking you to live up to your policy and improve the indoor facility and free the Falcon. Fiscal management, accounting and reporting policy states that the school district shall utilize the accounting system of the Department of Audit and State Auditor's Office in regard to all adequate accounting system and other essential financial records. The system shall include a method of accounting for keeping of records of all funds received, handled, and dispersed by the school district, whether derived from donations, athletic events, and other personal activities by the district. The uniform system of accounts so prescribed and formulated by the Department of Audit shall be installed, utilized, and followed in keeping with the financial records of the school district. In the past meetings, we have not seen any objection by this board to the financial reports provided by the business bank in relation to the funding available for this expenditure. From our discussions with Ms. McGard today, there is $5,486,780 in the district's maintenance fund balance after the expenses of the one-time expenditures were booked in the sped list approved last month. We have also learned that the state requires 7% of revenues to be held in reserve. excerpts from the letters of support. From Joe Higgins, it is essential to the continued growth of the athletic programs that a proper facility is available to provide a safe and healthy environment for training during times that are not ideal for outdoor training. From Senator Terry Brown, just as our schools must emphasize academic excellence, it is important that they have the facilities to offer quality extracurricular activities.
Excuse me, Mr. Mullis, your time has expired. But we do appreciate you coming before the board. We appreciate all of the due diligence that you've done and pulling the information and pulling our policies and the letters of support that you have. So thank you very much. And that item will be addressed just a little bit later in our meeting tonight. Thank you. We do.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Spears.
Just as in the past, as a courtesy, we have extended a 2-minute, which is permitted by our policies, to individuals that are appearing before the board, which has been extended to previous speakers in our just earlier.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Mr. Mullis, continue. Mr. Shannon, 2 minutes.
I'll skip to the mayor's recommendations. I think he hits kind of the point on the head here. Mayor Robert Smith, as a former coach, I certainly appreciate the advantage that an indoor facility will provide. With an indoor facility, the inclement weather will no longer be a hindrance factor during practices. In summary, we're simply asking this board to do what your policies, goals, and mission statements and objectives say you do. It's clear to us that the funding is available. We have shared some excerpts of our local support. Our attendance tonight demonstrates the school-community partnership. Our softball and baseball Falcons have been bound and held back for too long. Tonight, we're respectfully asking you again tonight to approve the $125,162 one-time expenditure for the indoor facility and the free of Falcons so we can reach our potential.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda for request to appear before the board, item number B, is Mr. Carl Lee.
Glory be to God. Good evening. This is real progress.
Mr. Lee, I would just like to let you know that you have 5 minutes to share.
But I thank you, Chairwoman. Good evening, board members, citizens, staff. And it's not going to take that long. This is the first time I've been before this board, so first of all, let me start off with the good and the bad news all in one. I want to thank each of you for being willing to serve, and I have been keeping up in the press. We have a newly comprised board. I kept up with the previous board, and I just want to commend you all because change is hard and tough, and none of us like to go. So I want to thank you all for bringing us on. On another note, but same and similar. You know, as a citizen, I've been coming before the Columbus School Board since Mr. Goolsby was superintendent and I was a student in the district. I've been being on the agenda, check your archive. And so I can tell you that having been a student, a graduate of this district, and having been an advocate as a community leader, that I see real progress and real change. Though it doesn't come as quickly sometimes as we would like, it comes timely. And on that note, having kept up with the recent changes, I will say, as I've said publicly, that anytime we have a superintendent who can't add $400, that superintendent needs to go. That's my position. Similarly, so when Ms. Liddell left, and I said to Ms. Liddell, you got an adding problem. Simple. We don't want to teach the children that not being able to add the 400, Mr. Spears and others would be appropriate, correct, efficient, or effective. And a school board exists for the two notions, Ms. Fisher and Ms. Lundhauer, of efficiency and effectiveness. The most important consideration is the education and advancement of the children. Same and similar in moving forward. I have seen this district ever since Mr. Dilworth's tenure sort of just wiggle and wobble in the paper more often for the board, the teachers, and the staff, and not often enough for the children. I want to encourage this board with your consultant, Way and Associates, to pick a superintendent who can carry this district forward. It has been far too much about us and not enough about the positive When an interim superintendent says that they will take that position on the basis that they will not be considered for the permanent position and changes their mind thereafter, I say we stick to what has been given to us in the beginning. I stand on that. No performance evaluation. Simply, we don't want to teach the children that a lie or a change of a mind is appropriate in midstream. Let's go forward with what we have been given. Stand firm. This board has evolved as this community has evolved. I was so proud of you, Ms. Fisher. So proud from a distance, because nobody who has the status quo in the palm of their hand likes to see change, but change it is. Change it is, and finally, I love the idea of an indoor facility, but only after every school in this district has been appropriately heated and aired, every book provided in computer. Schools exist to educate. Extracurricular activities are a part of that process, but they are not a priority of that process. Not here in Columbus, not in the state of Mississippi, anywhere in the nation or in the world. And as we all know, when we get right honest, we stand behind the 8 ball in America now. We need to get educated and get educated more often, more better, quicker, and faster. Is that, have I used all my time? And thank you all. Good to see you all that I've seen before, David, John, and Glenn. And to the new board members, carry forward, carry forward. And it has always been, I'm with Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Shannon, I think you were going to share with us where we need to go in the event of inclement weather.
Thank you, Madam President. There is a possible threat of inclement weather on tonight. Hopefully our meeting will be finished before and if that arrives. If by chance we are still here, we do have a crisis management plan where we ask that you follow our directions. There are 2 rooms down the hall that are very secure. Also to the left, and we'll be right outside to direct anyone that is still here past the windows, and we will take shelter there. But if inclement weather does arrive, we will let you know, and we are monitoring the weather over here through technology. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shannon. Next, board, we're at item number 6, to adopt the agenda. This will require a motion.
Madam President, I make the motion that we adopt the agenda with the following adjustment. I ask that we move the item number, let's see here, forgive me for that, item number 20 to come after item number 16, which would place it right before closed determination of executive session.
Okay. Item number 20.
And Madam President, I will second that motion.
Ms. Fisher?
I'm sorry, unless my calculation is wrong, there's a numbering of the Roman numerals, 14, 15, 16. Okay, would you just restate that for the records, Mr. Spears?
Yes, ma'am. I'm asking that we relocate item number 20, which is such other matters that may come before the board, to fall right behind or in front of closed determination for executive session, which is labeled item number 17. So we would go 16 with the dates to remember, and then have number 20, and then we would continue on to the end of the agenda.
So, would you restate?
So your motion is, Mr. Spears, is that we move item number 20, such other matters that may come before the board, and place it right before closed determination for executive session.
That is correct, Madam President.
All right, so it has been motioned by Mr. Spears. It has been seconded by Mr. Latzenheiser. Is there any more discussion?
Yes, ma'am. And the reason for my motion is because it has become too often a problem that as we go through the agenda, different items are located, or relocated, I should say, to this item on the agenda. And I think that anything that would happen to come up for discussion throughout this meeting that would be asked to be moved to this section of the agenda, or standing items that may be discussed in that particular area, that we allow as many of the participants here that have made the time to come to the meeting hear those discussions.
If there's no more discussion, all in favor of Mr. Spears' motion, please signify by raising your right hand. Is there any opposed? It is unanimous. So we will amend the agenda so that such other matters will be before closed determination for executive session. Yes, Mrs. Fisher, did you have something?
I do. I would like to, excuse me, move item number 9, the approval of the minutes, because there are a number of editing changes that need to be made. I would like to move that to, or postpone that to the June 13th special meeting, which will bring us in the 30-day time frame.
Okay, that is your motion. Is there a second? It has been motioned by Mrs. Fisher, second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion?
Yes, there is.
Mrs. Spears.
If at all possible, one thing that I would like to clarify, it's my understanding the reason these minutes are being postponed, based on our discussion, Ms. Verdell, on Friday, is that there are a number of omissions and incorrect statements listed in the minutes that were not properly put into the minutes for our consideration. And after the recommended changes were posed to, in written form, to both the board clerk, the interim superintendent, board president, as well as the secretary, we have yet to get all of the corrected minutes back, even though there was submissions back to the board for corrections to the minutes that were still incomplete. And so if it would be possible, just for the record, I would make sure that the minutes that are going to be brought back forth would include the correct details, which being that item number, if we look at the minutes for the May the 12th, 2014 meeting.
Mr. Spears.
Yes, this is discussion. I understand that.
It is, but if you could really just keep it such that we
I would like
can
a
move
point
our
of order to find out exactly why you have a chance to limit my time.
It's not I am just calling for order of the day, which is we need to move our agenda forward.
No,
so we're
right,
respecting what you want us to do.
We have a motion, and we have a second, and we're in discussion.
Will you please list your items that you want to bring to our attention? If we could do it as expeditiously as possible,
Oh, absolutely.
please.
I'll start reading now. If you look at the meeting, May the 12th, 2014, minutes that are up for consideration today, you will note that as we come down to such other matters that may come before the board, after other discussions that had been had earlier in the meeting, Mr. Lewis had made them, bear with me one second here. If you come down to where it states, Glenn Lotzenheiser made a motion to approve funding for CHS athletic facility, one-time expenditure, was seconded by me. Then it has a line in there that says, following a discussion on the cost, which is incorrect in its order. That should be moved down to the actual discussion of the 3 buses. Jason Spears made a motion to purchase 3 buses as recommended and requested by the interim superintendent, and was seconded by Glenn Lotzenheiser. And then you come back up to this incorrectly lined paragraph, which basically states that following a discussion on the cost of the district to purchase 12 buses, Jason Spears stated for the record, interim superintendent brought forward a recommendation for 3 buses. The board has discussed purchasing 12 buses. The board never discussed purchasing 12 buses. Ms. Fisher and Mr. Lewis discussed purchasing 12 buses. It is not, and I stated, it is not the board's job, which I did say, to say not purchase 3 buses, we will purchase 12 buses, which is incorrect. Ms. Fisher, if I recall correctly, based off of here, Jason Spears made a motion to purchase 3 buses requested by the interim superintendent and was seconded by Glenn Lotzenheiser. In discussion, Mr. Lewis stated, we have 12 buses which are outdated. He supported purchasing 12 buses. Afterwards, Ms. Fisher stated that the buses would cost $997,200 to purchase all the buses. Mr. Spears stated he requests the board clerk record for the minutes the previous statements made by Trustee Lewis and Trustee Fisher for the record, which is not in the record. Interim Superintendent McGill stated that she and her management team were comfortable with the replacement of 3 buses and believed the savings produced from them would allow the district the ability to replace more buses in the near future. Mr. Spears requested the interim superintendent's response be recorded in the record. It is not in the record.
And Mr. Spears, I think what we're going to do going forward, because it's been our practice that a board member could just state that something should be included in the minutes, but so that we make sure that we're really clear on what exactly needs to be placed in the minutes, we will take a vote for that and let the board determine that, yes, we are in agreement that these, whatever it is that is being asked.
That is not necessary.
Mr. Dunn, I think we had that conversation.
Yes, ma'am. I think the best practice is to vote up or down when anybody says, I want this included in the minutes. That's what the Mississippi School Board Association recommends, and I think it's the best practices.
And so that way, Mr. Spears, we make sure that we not only are in agreement with placing whatever it is being asked to be put in the minutes, but that we can capture it verbatim so that there's no misunderstanding. There's not an extended amount of time needed to make sure that the minutes are accurate, because I do think that that played a really big role in the reason why our minutes aren't as correct as they should be at this point, and that it has taken so much time to review those minutes. I did take all of your notes. I did share them with Mr. Dunn and Mrs. Fisher and Jan, so they do have what those changes should be. So we appreciate you sharing
Well,
that
and not to
information.
belabor the point, Madam President, but it's that these were infractions of school board members taking on administrative responsibilities and not governance. So if you want to vote it up or down and it's decided, well, I made a mistake, I don't want it in the minutes, which is occurring right now, you seem to have the votes for it. So that's why I don't see as to why now all of a sudden it's best practices that we adhere to this standard by MSBA.
I think if we're going forward and we're moving forward, that would be the best thing to do. So do you have anything else that you'd like to share? I think Mr. Dunn is trying to get in and
I would like for the
share.
record that I disagree with that, and I would ask that the minutes be recorded correctly. If the local publications can get everything down correctly, how is it that us sitting up here can't get it? If that's your duty on the board to do, how can you not get it right?
So are you making a motion that you would like to have what you just stated placed into the minutes?
I
If
made
so,
the motion. I've stated it at the last meeting.
So
There's
does
a
Mr.
motion on the floor.
Yeah, there is a-
We have a motion
Yes.
and a second on the floor.
Mr. Dunn, did you have something you want to
I
share?
I just want to make sure I understand. The next meeting that will be 30 days from May the 12th is going to be
June
the
the 12th.
12th. I think it's Thursday, isn't that right? And
That is correct.
So, Ms. Fisher, I think you said the 13th, and would your motion needs to reflect to be taken up at the meeting this coming Thursday morning, the 12th? Am I right
That
on
will
that?
give you the 30, within the 30 days.
I would be willing to amend that motion
Okay.
to say that the minutes be taken up at the meeting on the 12th, which will bring us within the
30
30-day
days,
timeframe
right.
for the 12th and
Right.
13th and 14th.
Okay, and Mr. Lewis, are you still in favor of that?
You second.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn, is that all?
That's it, ma'am.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor of the motion that we take our minutes to be approved on June the 12th, please signify by raising your right hand, please. All opposed? Please let the record show that the vote was 3-2 in favor of postponing the approval of minutes until June the 12th. So we will make a note of that on our agenda, that we are removing item number 9 for approval of minutes. Next, that brings us to Board Attorney review of action items. Mr. Dunn, have you had an opportunity to look at the agreements that are listed for us to review for tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I have reviewed all of the agreements and contracts that are before the board through this agenda, and I find them to be legally sufficient.
All right, thank you very much.
Madam President, we did not adopt the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. And thank you, Mr. Dunn. Board, now we need to take a vote to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please signify by raising
I
your...
make a motion that we adopt the agenda with the suggestions made by myself and Ms. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Now, Mrs. McGill, we're at your section of the meeting, Office of Interim Superintendent. I think the first thing that we have on the agenda is, go
Yes.
ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. First on the agenda is a presentation by Attorney Casey Lott regarding the proposed MAEP funding lawsuit, and this presentation is for information only. Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Thank you, Superintendent McGill, Board, Madam President, Mr. Dunn.
Mr. Lott.
My name is Dustin Childers. Unfortunately, Mr. Lott had a family emergency, took him away tonight. I will be here instead. I realize we got the full agenda tonight, and we do have inclement weather. I certainly don't want to take any more than my fair share. Jump right in. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Langston and Lott in Louisville, Mississippi. Our firm is part of the team that will be filing a suit on behalf of certain school districts in the state of Mississippi for failing to fully fund education since 2010. The other members of this team include former Governor Bernie Musgrove, Jeffrey Graves, Justice Graves' son, and accomplished attorney from Jackson, Jesse Mitchell. You may have heard rumors about the filing of this lawsuit against the state of Mississippi by a consortium of school districts to recover past due Mississippi Adequate Education Program funds. The foundation for this suit is based in Mississippi Code Section 37-151-6, which explicitly states the legislature shall fully fund the Mississippi Adequate Education Program. That said, our legislation has read the word shall as we might get around to it someday. By our calculations under MAEP, the legislature's interpretation of shall, and Madam Superintendent, the Board, Mr. Dunn, and the folks behind me, I want you to write this number down. By our calculation, their interpretation of the word shall is deprived the Columbus Municipal School District of $13,531,676. One more time, $13,531,676. What makes this even more of a deplorable act is that they know it. A bill was introduced during the last legislative session that would change the language of this section from shall fund to may fund. Although this bill died, it will almost certainly be introduced again in the January 2015 legislative session. If this amendment passes, it will eliminate your district's right to obtain these past due MAEP funds in a court of law. We know this because of the 2003 case titled Settlement of Belmont versus the Mississippi State Tax Commission. Mr. Dunn already has the citation and can certainly explain the case more thoroughly than I can if you need that explanation. But very briefly, what that case means, the Supreme Court said that if you file suit under legislation that is currently enacted, and before you reach a judgment in that, if that law changes, it completely relinquishes and evaporates your right to be able to pursue that judgment. Now, we plan to file suit in Hinds County Chancery Court and obtain a judgment prior to the next legislative session. But those districts that choose not to join in our suit could be left out in cold. Now, you're probably already thinking, this sounds like a class action type case where one school district could certainly take the brunt of this and maybe recover for all of us. That's called a Rule 23 class action. Mr. Dunn already knows, it's probably already apprised you, Mississippi is the only state that does not have Rule 23 class actions. Please do not misunderstand me. If you do not file in this action, your recovery will be zero. You cannot depend on another school district to take this fight up for you. Madam Superintendent, Board, constituents of the Columbus Municipal School District, I know that you already have questions and concerns about this lawsuit. No one would advise you to take on a suit where you expose yourself more than you need to or to do something detrimental to the school system. When I speak to other school districts, their concerns are typically in the same vein. So the allotted time that I have left, I want to quickly address the most common concerns. I'm asked, what if this suit causes a loss of goodwill with our district and the legislature? The Mississippi legislature has not fully funded education since 2009. Likewise, they have shown no desire to fully fund education and will never do so unless you stand up to them and make them keep their word or they have a chance to change what their word means. You may be thinking that the legislature may not have the revenue to fully fund MAEP like they said they would, but they may in the future. To this, I would say this year, this state's revenue collections exceeded estimates by $300 million. In addition, they maxed out the $400 million rainy day fund. What did they do with this extra revenue? giving it to books, giving it to education, giving it to school districts, but no, they gave it to existing businesses, not new businesses, existing businesses, so they could have $100 million in tax rates. You also might be thinking, well, if we recover the legislature, they might try to offset our recovery later by cutting our future funding. The Better Schools, Better Jobs constitutional amendment is up for vote this November. Feel free to ask any politician, and they will tell you this is going to pass. Better Schools, Better Jobs amendment makes sure that the legislature cannot offset their arrears by cutting funding in the future. They will be on the hook. Another big question I get is, Justin, if we file this suit, they might threaten us with consolidation. That's a very real threat. But I want to make something clear. The only way that consolidation can happen is a one-at-a-time vote. No politician in their right mind that wants to keep their job is going to vote for school districts, 151 school districts to be consolidated to 82. Now, for a great example, let's take Star Point on Tip-Off. Now, my legislator back in Boone, he could vote for Star Point to be consolidated. You sure can't vote for Boone to be that way. So why I say that is this. Don't let a legislator come in here that does not represent you and tell you that you, I apologize for the rest of my time.
That is, Board, does anybody need to hear?
I make a motion that we'll allot him 2 minutes to finish his statements.
No discussion? Okay. Please signify by raising your right hand. You can continue. You're welcome.
Do not let a legislator come in here and tell you that you are performing poorly and that you need to be consolidated because you haven't gotten the funds that you are due. Lastly, I had a person recently say to me, the state can't, certainly aren't fully funding education to start with. So how will they pay all the money owed across the state if there's a judgment against them? And the truthful, blunt answer is they can't pay this year. But if you took the money they received this year, which was over their estimates, you can start with a third of it already paid down. And I don't know anybody in this room that would say that just because it's going to take 3 years to pay that judgment down, they'd rather not do it. We are representing these cases on a contingency fee basis, which means you are not out of any out-of-pocket expenses. There's no cost for you to join this suit. We will pay all upfront costs to litigate, and our fees in this case are even capped. As the board clerk has already provided you with our contract, you see that the higher the amount goes into recovery, the lower the cap is. This is a lawsuit to recover funds that you are due, that you are owed. If you've been told, promise through the law that you have received, we're here to help you get them back. Madam Superintendent, Madam President, Board, Mr. Dunn, ladies and gentlemen, I can't make up your mind for you on this. So make a motion, a second, to vote, to discuss. These are procedures that are left up to you. This team of attorneys who have a bona fide record of supporting education can only fight for you, can only get back what was promised to you if you allow us to represent you. I hope that at the end of the day, you don't have to difficult task of explaining to the good people behind me why you chose not to participate, why your district can't recoup the funds that other districts around you are. Madam Superintendent, Board, you have a fiduciary duty to join in this lawsuit. You have nothing to lose, and the children of Columbus have absolutely everything to gain. I thank you greatly for your time. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take those now. If you'd like to put those through to Mr. Dunn, I'll send those to you later. I'm also happy to oblige you. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, Mr. Shoulders. Board, are there any questions, Mr. Leitzenheiser?
Just 2 or 3 questions. At this point in time, how many school districts across the state have indicated that they have joined in?
I can't give you an exact number on that for certain reasons, but we have several that have already indicated that they are going to join, that they are very interested.
All right, what would be the deadline? What's the last possible time that we could make a decision whether to join or not to join this?
So preferably the sooner the better. And I don't want to give you a strict deadline. I certainly don't want to put you in a situation where you feel that you have to make a rash decision. The sooner the better. We certainly want to have a judgment entered in 9 county cases prior to January 2015 legislative session. So the sooner the better.
Okay, you just mentioned my next question. I mean, I know the answer to this, but would you please tell everyone in the audience where the suit would be filed, please, sir?
The suit would be filed in 9 county chancery.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Shoulders?
The only other question I have is just to understand correctly, is this is not a progressive scale. If our number tallies to $13,531,000, it's not 25% on the first $10 million and 20% on the remaining $3 million, correct?
That actually is how that works. So it would be 25%
Okay.
of the first 10 and
Okay.
gradually decreases the higher.
So it's a breakpoint schedule.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Board, I think at this time, this information was, this agreement and your presentation was given to us for information only. We would like to ask for Mr. Dunn to be able to go back and do some research and be able to share with this board what your findings are.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
I'll be
thank
happy
you.
to- And I'll give Mr. Childers a call tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Childers, for coming.
Thank you.
Can continue.
Madam President, item B through J, through M, are requests for one-time expenditures for various needs in the district. I have no further reports on those items.
Okay, thank you. Item number B is consideration to approve the one-time expenditures for baseball and softball practice facility in the amount of $125,162. Board, this will require a
Madam
motion.
President, I make a motion that we approve the one-time expenditure of $125,162 for the construction of the baseball, softball practice facility.
Okay, thank you.
I will second that.
So it has been motioned by Mr. Spears. It has been seconded by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion?
One thing that I would like to bring out, as I know this has been before us numerous times, is that I would greatly like to note and say I appreciate the management team and Ms. McGill's effort to provide a very extensive amount of information for our evaluation since the first time that this item was brought before the board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spears. Is
And
there
I'd like
another-
to say one more thing. It's
Mr.
my
Lotzenheiser?
understanding that we're the only 6A school district in the state of Mississippi that does not have such a facility.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any other discussion? Mrs.
Madam
Fisher?
President, I would like for the public to leave here knowing that I do think our Falcons deserve a practice facility, but also it must be within the budget guidelines. And right now, we are a D district. And we're supposed to be about student achievement first. Now, I think that there is a way that the parents, the administration, should be able to work out something with other entities, stakeholders within this district, to make this happen. Our budget should not take the hit for athletic facilities when we don't have a child that has, every child has a book.
That is not true.
Excuse me,
Hey.
I'm not asking for a debate, Mr.
Mrs. Fisher
Spears.
has the floor.
Thank you. Every child must have a book. We need counselors in schools. Yes, we need a facility. Yes, we deserve an indoor facility. But you must prioritize and make sure that there's an investment from the stakeholders within our community. And I heard you say that you'd done it several years ago, that only a certain amount was raised. But I think that that amount can be upped. I think that a more significant amount can be raised. And I would just ask that you all consider what the priorities are. It's education first.
Madam
Thank
President,
you, Mr. Spears.
wow, you are the greatest paradox I've ever met, because you voted down numerous times to upgrade networks, computers, everything you just put in your little dialogue over and over and over. So your funding from the stakeholders, the way I tally it, is every tax dollar this district gets. It's not going out and raising money through T-shirt sales and everything else. Every single dollar that we sit up here in judgment of how it's spent comes from every stakeholder that's out there and out there, every business. So to say that they need to raise more, sure.
Mr. Spears, I have
the floor.
Mr. Spears has the floor.
Thank you,
You're
Madam
welcome, Mr.
President.
Spears.
I think is less than honest, because I'm not making an impassioned plea for what it is that's before us, as much as it is about your facts are more than skewed. They're just wrong. And
Mrs.
that's my last bit.
Thank you, Mrs. Spears. Ms. Fisher?
Mr. Spears, I respect your right to speak your mind. I will not challenge you personally the way you just challenged me, and the public will have to leave here understanding what you just did. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me just say one final thing, and that is our administration, Ms. McGill and her management team, have looked at this very carefully, and it's their collective decision that this would be good for our children. And I would like to reiterate what we have talked about on several occasions, that after a very thoughtful review and discussion, this recommendation is coming to us from them.
Thank you, Mr. Latzenheiser. I'd like to chime in right now. We have these one-time expenditures before us, and we have been looking at them for a few months. But I will tell you, we received the strategic plan for this district in December, and there was no place in that strategic plan for any of these items. And we do understand that they're all important. I will also tell you that we have not had our first true budget meeting. We won't have that until the 13th of this month, where we'll be able to see, well, what is it exactly that the interim superintendent is requesting that we have for our budget going forward? What programs are being cut potentially? What programs are being added? Where will the shortfall come if there is a shortfall? And so those are all the things that we have to take into consideration. The other thing that I'd like to share is we have not, not even today, seen a comprehensive evaluation for any of our facilities. I'm a parent who has been at Franklin Academy for 7 years. There is no air conditioning in the auditorium in Franklin Academy. That is the only general meeting space for students in that school. There is no properly functioning heating in Franklin Academy. That is the only general meeting facility in that school for parents and for teachers and for students. And so I just want to make sure that when we make these decisions, that it is very comprehensive in nature, that we're not just pulling certain athletics that we're considering all of the different sports that we have in this district. I also know that our track is in dire need of being replaced, and it's fairly new. I'm also a parent, a soccer parent. My child has played soccer for the last 3 years at the high school level. We have no outdoor bathroom facilities for soccer. We're potentially at a liability for allowing students to go into the building, both the traveling team and our students. So there's a lot that we have to consider. There's a lot that we have to look at. There's a lot that we're responsible for, because at the end of the day, when we have to sign off on all of this, it's each one of us who's sitting here who has to do that. So I do appreciate the parents coming. I applaud you for your Falcon passion. I'm a parent just like you, but I do understand that there has to be prioritization, and that we have to make sure that we can fund the things that are being asked for once we truly understand what those things are. Board, is there any other discussion?
Yes, Madam President.
Mrs. Spears.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ballard, if you would, I would ask that for the permanent record, and if we need to take a vote, we shall do it, that Ms. Verdell's last statement be recorded in the minutes, as well as mine. 2 months ago, we had a company come before us proposing just what you alluded to, that we were going to have a full, thorough evaluation of every facility, whatever repairs and things that they needed, so that we would know what it is that we need to task and prioritize to get, as you alluded to, all the things satisfied. And you, Madam President, you, Ms. Fisher, and you, Mr. Lewis, voted it down.
And Mr. Spears, you're exactly right. And I think it was at that time that we asked the Deputy Superintendent if he could then go back and do that analysis for us to consider.
And Mr. Shannon, I do recall receiving information from you regarding some of the buildings, if I remember correctly, or am I incorrect? Based off of
Madam
our
President, may I?
Mr. Shannon.
What we were asked to do was go back and get a second quote from a company to see if we could have those things completed at a more competitive rate, and also see what type of those functions that we could perform ourselves. And we are currently analyzing that to see exactly what some of those things we can do in-house and what would actually have to be outsourced.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Shannon.
to conclude my discussion, one thing that I would state for the record, if it's permitted, if we need to take a vote, we shall, is that you can't sit here and decide time and time again what it is that you wish to do or wish not to do. Recommendations have been brought to this board and have been proposed. And it is that we take one step at a time. You don't just run the race of the track and get to the end and realize you've accomplished all of the things. You have to take one step at a time. So that's my bottom line to it.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Is there any more discussion?
Madam President, may I make a comment, please?
Yes, Ms. McGill.
In our strategic plan, Goal 5C indicates that administrators will conduct an annual review of facility and infrastructure each March for major repairs to be addressed during the summer or budgeted for the next year. So we do address facilities and infrastructure in our plan, not specifically one item, but we do address that need in our plan. And we also have had a budget meeting where we presented all of the debt that, a report on all of the debt that we have and all of the projected revenues from local sources for the coming year.
Thank you, Mrs. McGill. If
You're
there is no further discussion,
I just have one final question.
Mr. Spears.
Ms. McGill, would this be a project that would be included in our upcoming budget?
It could be included in our upcoming budget.
Thank you.
If there's no more discussion, all in favor of approving the one-time expenditure for baseball, softball practice facility, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail. We move to item number C, consideration to approve budget increase from fund balance for baseball, softball facility, which we can omit that. Item number D, consideration to approve one-time expenditure for athletic facility in the amount of $51,705. Mrs.
I'll second it.
Been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. It has been seconded by Mr. Spears. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail. We move now to item number F, consideration to approve one-time expenditures for AS400 financial system server. This will require a motion. It has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there a second?
I will second the
It
motion.
has been seconded by Mr. Spears. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail. Next, we have the consideration to approve one-time expenditures for 3 buses in the amount of $249,300. Board, this will require a motion.
I motion that we approve the one-time expenditure.
Okay, the motion is the one-time expenditure for 3 buses. Mr. Spears, for clarification, is that your motion?
Yes.
Mr. Lotzenheiser, your second. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor of approving the one-time expenditure for 3 buses, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we have consideration to approve one-time expenditures for classroom technology upgrades. Aye. Thank you. Aye. Consideration to approve the budget increase from the fund balance for the 3 buses in the amount of $249,300.
So move.
Is there a second? Second. It's been motioned by Mr. Spears, second by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Item number J, consideration to approve one-time expenditures for classroom technology upgrades in the amount of $780,051. Is there a motion?
I make the motion that we approve the one-time expenditure for the upgrades.
It has been motioned by Mr. Spears, second by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail. Next, we move to item number L, consideration to approve one-time expenditures for wireless access for classrooms in the amount of $123,510.25. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser, second by Mr. Spears. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Spears.
Interim Superintendent, if this vote is taken and it is successful, by not purchasing the technology upgrades, as noted in the previous action, would that basically mean that we're purchasing something that would not be able to be utilized?
I would have to consult with our technology department. And I also would like to note that in a question asked earlier about the inclusion of some of these one-time expenditures in the budget, certainly anything can be included in the budget, but board members need to be aware that when these items are included in the budget, that also results in an increase in the budget and an undue burden on the taxpayers. So while it can be included in the budget, we are nearing the end of the budget process and would have to revise what we have done so far. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, and just to chime in on that, I seem that our stakeholders are not paying enough as it is, so I don't think that will be a problem.
And Mrs. McGill, as a point of clarification, for any of the items that you're asking for right now, for the one-time expenditures, those one-time expenditures can be considered after our new budget is in place as one-time expenditures.
They can.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
However, that would not give us an opportunity to have those in place when school starts.
So I think we have the motion. It has been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser. It has been seconded by Mr. Spears for consideration to approve the one-time expenditures for wireless access. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail. Next on our agenda, we have the consent agenda items. Board, we've all had an opportunity to review all of the items listed under the consent agenda. Are there any questions about any of the items?
I motion that we approve the consent agenda items as proposed.
Is there a second? Second. It has been motioned by Mr. Spears. It has been seconded by Mr. Lotzenheiser that we approve all of the items listed on our consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Next on our agenda is the Office of Personnel, Ms. Donna Mann. Consideration to approve staff personnel items.
I make a motion that we approve the personnel staff items as they are presented.
I'll second that.
It has been motioned by Mr. Spears and seconded by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor of approving the personnel items, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does pass. Please note that the vote was 4-1, and Mrs. Fisher is in opposition. Next, we have the Office of Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Craig Shannon. Consideration to approve disposal of fixed assets.
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve the disposal of the fixed assets as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, second by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we have Board of Trustees. Item number A, Community Advisory Committee update. I know that Mr. Lotzenheiser and Mr. Lewis have been doing some research on that. Would you like to share with the board
Sure,
what your
be glad
findings
to.
are?
We have received some very good information, both some documentation about the organizational, the structure, composition, length of time, and things of this nature. And as a follow-up to that, as I said, a conference call was held with the Newark, New Jersey public school system, with the Broward County, Florida system, and also with the Austin, Texas Independent School District. And we got some very good information. And one of the things that I think we're going to have to do is kind of move away from Newark, New Jersey, because it's a different situation and it really not would be applicable to our committee. But the one in Florida and the one in Texas, although the school districts are much larger than ours, I think, as I said, their model would form the basis for us putting together our Community Advisory Committee. And so between now and the next meeting, Mr. Lewis and I will sit down and work up, as I said, a rough draft of what we're going to present to you to approve, and we would anticipate having that at least to you before the next meeting next month.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, but I will say that on the one in Austin, they did let us know that they had minimal problems with the way that they operate, and it's a very good council that they have.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you both for agreeing to spearhead that committee. Next, we have the Superintendent Search Board. We do have our board-approved timeline that we're operating under right now. The next scheduled meeting that we have with Ray and Associates will be on June the 12th, and so we are all aware of that.
Madam President, I have just one quick question regarding the superintendent search.
Yes,
It was
Mr.
my
Spears.
understanding at the meeting that we had on, I believe, the 14th, no, I'm sorry, maybe it was the 19th, that we approved the flyer that we stated, and I don't believe it was recorded correctly in the minutes, but that we wanted all applicants' information and not just the recommended
That's correct.
applicants' information.
That's correct.
And all applicants would be those that had everything in by the May 30th timeline in good order,
That is correct.
regardless of whether they feel that they are a top candidate in the search or not.
Absolutely, and regardless of whether there's negative information to share. So you're
Right.
correct.
That's correct.
Right.
And Jan, Ms. Ballard, if you would, please record that in tonight's minutes, please.
If we're going to do that, Mr. Spears, if she's going to do that, we should
If we should
follow.
take a vote,
Yeah,
I
I'd
make
say,
a motion
is that your
we
motion?
include that statement in tonight's minutes.
Is there a second? I will second that. Is there any discussion?
Discussion.
Mrs. Fisher?
Mr. Spears, for the record, so that Ms. Ballard gets an accurate recording of that, would you state what that statement is that you're referring to?
The statement that you're talking about was in, actually, it's, let's see here, I've got it right here in the minutes that I couldn't read earlier.
Is it the statement that all applicants will be considered, reported to the board as
bear
well
with
as
me,
any negative comments?
Just one second. Let's see here. It was actually for the May 19, 2014, 8 a.m. meeting, to which, if you look under item 4, it states how many participants were, included in the survey, and Jason Spears reiterated the importance of receiving all information, positive and negative, about each recommended applicant. I did not say recommended, I said all.
Mr. Spears, I was asking you what statement you were just referring to, which is that all applicants be submitted if they submit by the May 30th deadline?
Correct.
As well as all negative reports?
Well, that was actually Ms. Verdell's comment.
Okay. Well, that's why I was asking you
Yes.
to clarify which statement you were referring to when you said that statement. That's all.
So,
Correct.
Mrs. Ballard, I want to make sure that you have been able to capture that. Do you have that? All applicants. Is that correct, Mr. Spears?
All applicants.
All applicants.
That were in good order by the submission
By the
of the May
deadline.
30th
Of the May
deadline.
3rd, we got you.
Yes.
So that is Mr. Spears' motion. Was there a second? Mr. Lonsenheiser's second. If there's no more discussion, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. No, Mrs. Fisher is opposing. So please let the record show that it is 4-1 that we include Mr. Spears' statement in the minutes. Next, we have item number C, consideration to approve proposed policy EBH, use of school facilities. Board, we've all had an opportunity to review that policy. Does anyone have any questions with regards to the changes that have been proposed?
I make the motion to approve the policy EBH as amended.
Second.
Okay, it has been properly motioned and second. Motion by Mr. Spears, second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor of approving policy EBH, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. Next, we have Office of Testing and Special Services, Ms. Nancy Bragg. Ms. Bragg, do you have anything that you would like to say with regards to the report tonight? Okay, all right, thank you. That is for information only. Thank you very much. Next, we have the Office of Business Management, Tammy McGarr, Business Administrator, discussion of the following items. Thank you, Mrs. McGarr. Good evening.
It's not very loud.
No, it's not
It's
very
on, but
loud.
it's not very loud.
The little green light was on, so, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The first item that is up is consideration to approve the cafeteria plan administrator. A previous meeting, this was tabled. I went back upon your request, and I did send a letter to all the companies that were listed on the State Auditor's Office approved list. And we also had another company that has since been approved that we also accepted a proposal from. And we, upon that, that action, we did receive 7 proposals, and we actually had 3 companies that actually made visits here. And that showed me that they were really interested in getting our business and that customer service would be a top priority for them. And of those 3, I sent you, Ms. Ballard should have sent you a list of the companies that have submitted proposals. And we are recommending American Fidelity Assurance Company, and I sent you a list of the reasons why that was our recommendation. American Fidelity, currently there is a list of 123 Mississippi school districts that they provide services for. I also contacted all of the business managers that are members of the North Mississippi Business Managers Consortium and inquired as to who they use for their cafeteria plan administration. Of those business managers, I received 19 responses, and out of those 19 school districts that responded, 16 of those currently use American Fidelity and are happy with them. I had many email responses back. One of those I would like to read to you. This particular school district said that American Fidelity's customer service for our employees is above anyone else. We just did a survey with our entire staff asking if anyone had issues with the products we are offering, claims being paid, etc. We received no negative responses. I highly recommend American Fidelity based on product, price, and customer service. Another school district responded, we use American Fidelity. I highly recommend them. Another school district, we use American Fidelity. We have been very pleased with them. And it just went on and on, the good customer service that they provide to these school districts and how good it had been working with them. We are familiar with American Fidelity here in our district because they do provide some insurance products for our company, for our employees, and we have always received great customer service. They have consulted with us on various items that are coming up with the health care laws, and that is another reason that I am recommending American Fidelity, because they have actually provided guidance to school districts through the Mississippi Association of School Business Officials and other avenues. So they are up to date on health care laws, and they will provide us the guidance that we need to make sure that we are in compliance with those laws, because there are severe penalties if we do not comply with those laws. American Fidelity is also the cafeteria plan administrator for other local districts such as Lowndes County, and several of our employees, their spouses work for Lowndes County, so that would be an advantage for them to be on the same plan that their spouses are a part of and to be familiar with that. I also got recommendation from a consultant that contracts with the Mississippi Department of Education that helps other school districts or helps school districts that have been taken over by the state, and she highly recommended American Fidelity as well. So based on these recommendations and the proposals that I have been through, and I have copies of all the proposals in my office, you're more than welcome to come and review any of those. I'm recommending American Fidelity, and I do have representatives here from American Fidelity tonight that are here to answer any questions whatsoever that you may have about their company and about the benefits that they would provide for our employees. I want the best for the employees of Columbus Municipal School District, and based on the recommendations of other school districts and what I have seen personally through working with American Fidelity here in our own district, and from the proposals, I feel that they would offer our employees the best. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Mrs. McGarr. Board, are there any questions for Mrs. McGarr?
Madam President, I make the motion that we approve.
I have a question.
We have to have a motion and a second to get to discussion.
But I was just asking, was there any questions for Mrs. McGarr? But you can move forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I make a motion that we approve the cafeteria plan by American Fidelity as proposed by our business administrator.
It has been motioned by Mr. Spears and second by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion?
Yes, question.
Mrs. Spears, Mrs. Fisher,
No, please don't call me that.
Mrs. Fisher.
Thank you, Mrs. McGarr. You mentioned in your justification that you had reached out to a number of districts and you received 19 responses. How many districts did you reach out to get the 19?
It would probably be about 20-something. It would be all of the North Mississippi business managers that are part of the consortium.
And I think I saw a reference, well, I did see a reference that 3 companies paid visits to the district.
That is correct. That is correct.
And did you have good employee representation about how many employees did you have at each?
How many employees?
Did you have
with
3
each
meetings?
company?
Or was it
Yes.
all in one meeting?
No, that was 3 different meetings. I met with American Fidelity. They have came several times to answer questions that we have had. We also met with Benefit Administration Services, and they also came about 3 times. And then we also met with Voluntary Benefits, and they visited once. And these companies requested a visit with us. None of the other companies, they mainly called or emailed.
And were the visits just with administration or with employees?
They met with myself and the members of the payroll clerk, payroll accountant, Liska Dyson, and also Felicia Elmore, the business office supervisor.
Okay, but not employees in general? They didn't get a presentation?
Ms. McGarr, one question that I have is, with the 3 visits from the different vendors, of those 3 vendors, were there others that had as an extensive amount of plans that they were servicing currently?
As far as
cafeteria plans as being proposed tonight?
As far as
The other 2 companies that came in for a visit to answer questions and things?
how many school districts they cover?
Yes.
Well, one of them currently does 1 school district in Mississippi,
Okay.
and the other has a few in Mississippi.
Less than 10?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we do have a motion on the floor right now. If there's no more discussion, all in favor of Mrs. McGarv's recommendation to approve the cafeteria plan provider to be American Fidelity?
American Fidelity.
American Fidelity. Please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail.
Can I ask a question?
Mrs. McGarr?
Could you give me an explanation as to why this motion failed?
I can't hear you.
Could you provide an explanation as to why this motion failed?
Board, would anybody like to provide an explanation to Mrs. McGarr as to why?
And I would like to ask also that we need to, and a decision needs to be made on this soon, because our current plan administrator, that plan runs out the end of August, and preparations need to be made now to get something in place so that we will be ready to go on September 1st.
All right, thank you, Mrs. McGarr. Mr.
something.
Lewis?
Under normal circumstances or procedures, are the teachers ever included in something like this, since they're going to be paying, these fees?
What the firms come in and do, they meet with each employee individually. The cafeteria plan administrator is just an administrator, but they do come in during the enrollment time and meet with each individual employee and gives them a list of the products that our school district is offering to them.
One other question, if they do it individually, are we going to have to take a teacher out of a classroom to do this?
No. I would love for American Fidelity to come in and tell you what their plan is for the enrollments, but they would meet with each individual teacher.
So, but that is after the fact, after the company
Yes.
has been selected?
Yes,
So
that's
teachers do
correct.
not have the opportunity to meet with any of the vendors
No.
prior to there being a
But they
decision
do give
made?
them a big slate of products to choose from, such as vision, dental, cancer, disability, all of the supplemental insurance products.
Well, and
Thank you.
as I can attest to, in the fact is that I manage 401k plans for various companies, is that the trustee for that particular business, on behalf of his group, will make the determination as to what advisor and what plan that they will utilize, and then at that particular point, I myself would go back and meet with each person individually to make certain that they have what it is that they need to have as a benefit tailored to their specific needs. So that is, my understanding of a very scaled down version of what a more robust platform that is offered through the cafeteria plan. So, and I guess my question is, who do we want to give it to?
Mrs. McGarry, you did say that you have the proposals
I
are in
do.
your office and
I
that
do.
we would need to come by individually to review those?
That is fine, whichever way you desire to
Okay,
go about.
all right, thank you very much.
Madam President, excuse me, may I make a comment?
Yes, it was between you and Mr. Spears, but go forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to commend Mrs. McGarr for going above and beyond in collecting data, in meeting with many different companies, and in bringing to us what we feel is the best recommendation. We cannot advise the board to consider another company based on the research that we have done. So please know that we have brought to you a recommendation that is based on thorough research and data, and that we would be ill-advised if we brought to you any other recommendation. So I encourage you to approve this American Fidelity as the company that we use for our cafeteria plan. Thank you, and thank you, Mrs. McGarr.
Thank you, Ms. McGill. Mr. Spears, did you have anything else? that
I'll
you
wait
wanted?
until item 20.
Okay. All right. Next, Mrs. McGarr, you may continue to item number B.
Okay, I do not have any other things to add to the financial reports.
Okay, so Board, we've had an opportunity to review the financial statements, the fund balance, the cash balance, the budget status. Item number C, monthly combined and combining report. Do you have anything to add to that?
Madam President, I'd have one question.
Yes, Mrs. Spears.
Seems like somebody above's not happy with this board at this moment, but that's okay. If you would, what is our current balance in the district maintenance 1120 fund?
As the current fund balance?
Yes. I mean, I know I've read it in the numbers, but if you could just...
Our current ending fund balance is $13,095,124.50. Of course, some of that has to be transferred to the Special Education Fund, 1130, and 1140, and the Vocational Fund, 2711. Those transfers will occur at the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else there, is there anything to share on the combined and combining report, the monthly revenue report, the expenditures budget, the ad valorem tax collection and analysis report?
I do have one question regarding item F, which is the monthly county tax analysis, and trying to follow as we progress through the next couple of months of collections. Is it my understanding that based off of our general request or our operating request that we should still be in the surplus from
Yes.
best we can forecast?
Yes, the preliminary figures that I had received from Mr. Andrews have actually been up from what he originally thought.
Okay, and as far as the debt leverage, debt millage leverage, we still are probably on point to have just a small.
I haven't looked at those. I just got figures from him Friday, and I've not had a chance to analyze that yet.
Okay.
But I will be presenting that at the budget work session on the
All right.
13th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McGar and Mr. Spears. I did just get an update from Mr. Shannon that there is not a tornado warning yet, but the weather is becoming even more severe. So if we can move expeditiously to the claims docket. We reviewed the summary of reconciled bank statements. Now we're at item number H, monthly approval to pay our bills. Is there a motion?
I
This will
make a
become
motion to pay the bills.
It's been motioned by Mr. Lotzenheiser, second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I had questions I would like clarified on the bank reconciliation report.
Will you let us take this motion through,
Yeah.
and
As
then
long
we
as
can come back?
return to it, yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. If there's no more discussion, all in favor of approving the docket for this month, please signify by raising your hand. It is unanimous. Mr. Spears, your question.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McGar, in just my review of your report for the June 9, 2014 bank reconciliation report, that is basically breaking down what the bank tells us we have in the bank, correct?
That's correct.
That's not a fiction. That's not an imaginary number.
No, no, it is not imaginary.
Okay. And so for the reconciled report that we have in our district maintenance fund, could you repeat that number to me, please, or tell me what the number would show? Because I know it's broken down a little bit more.
As far as the bank reconciliation
Yes.
summary, the bank reconciliation is actually for the month ended April 30th. And in the minimum program fund and capital projects fund, we have $13,984,998.78.
Okay. So that's confirmed in the bank.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. McGar. I do believe everything else that is under your section is for information only.
That's correct.
And if no one has any questions or any issues, Mr.
I do
Spears?
have some questions. One being, let's see, I think it's number 1, the superintendent candidate reviews. Is that at the time we'll receive all the information to review of those candidates?
Mr. Spears, I'm still actually under Mrs. McGar, Business Manager.
Okay.
The items that I was referring to were items I, J, and K, monthly
Okay.
safety report.
I apologize. I thought that
Sure.
was in the last
No,
movement.
monthly state
Okay.
safety report, information only, monthly transportation, revenue and expenses comparison report, and the monthly child nutrition revenue and expenses comparison report. So thank you, Mrs. McGar.
Thank you.
Next board, we're at information items, dates to remember. Number 1, the June 12th meeting for the beginnings of our superintendent candidate reviews, beginning at, the time is actually 8:30 a.m. and not 8 o'clock a.m., so I do believe that's a typo.
And Madam President.
Say that again,
The
please.
time is actually 8:30 a.m. It is not 8 a.m., so I do believe that's a typo. Mr. Spears?
Yes, Madam President. My question falls at the heart of when are we going to receive the information from Ray and Associates? Will it be at that meeting, or will we receive it before the meeting to have time to review it?
That information, to my understanding, will be shared at that meeting.
Okay.
No one has that information as of yet,
Okay.
and that is why there have been several hours scheduled for that meeting to allow for adequate time for reviewing.
Okay.
Number 2, the June 13th, which is the CMSD Board of Trustees Budget Workshop Session. That meeting is scheduled from 8 until 10. Number 3, June 26th, there's another CMSD Board Budget Workshop Session. For July 4th, that is the CMSD staff holiday. July 8th, CMSD Board of Trustees meeting with the City Council and the Mayor.
Madam President, I have a question about item number 5, please.
Yes, Mr. Spears?
I have gone through, and I know in reviewing the different minutes, also the different email correspondence that has been submitted to me, and I'm sure all the other trustees. And my question is, did we take action to set this meeting?
I think the only action that was taken, we actually received, Mrs. McGill and I both received a letter from the City Council and from the Mayor requesting that both she and I appear before them to share some information.
Right.
I think at that time,
Sure.
we sent out an email to poll the board to see if there was anyone available for a particular date.
Okay.
That is what has taken place at this point.
Because I made a list of some of the information that you were just describing. You know, one thing, and you know, as I look out for, I know that some people have left now, is that this is a regular school board meeting. And this school board, this school district, its leadership does not fall under the city payroll.
It does not.
It's its own separate entity.
Absolutely.
And so if I remember, I know the mayor has been in attendance several times, but I have failed to see very many councilmen make the effort to come here and learn about what it is that they're requesting they know about.
I agree.
So my question is really at the heart of I think Ms. Fisher actually said a while back that she didn't want to find out about us having to do things in the newspaper. So as I started looking back through my notes and the minutes, and I started looking through my email, the polling email that you're talking about came out the afternoon after the local paper published that we were having the meeting. So that's why I was a little bit confused as to, did this board take action to approve the meeting?
If there was a statement made in the paper, then I think it would have been an error, because I don't think that we communicated anything prior to that, Mr. Spears, but I think that there has been information in the paper before that may have not been correct.
Sure. Okay, so I go back to the point is while I understand the board president has the right to call a special meeting, and it is incumbent upon you to check with all the board members to make sure that schedules align and different things, that did not occur.
If I'm not mistaken, Mrs. McGill, there was a poll that was conducted by Mrs. Ballard to see if that date was good. I think there were a couple dates that were kind of tossed around.
Right, after it came out in the paper earlier in the day.
Well, I can't account for what was...
I mean, I have the facts here. If you'd
I can't
like me to
account
share
for
it
what
with
was
you, I will
in
be
the
more than happy to do it. But getting to my point is that we have a regularly scheduled board meeting every single month. We
Absolutely.
talk about financials, we talk about testing, we talk about buildings, every single thing that goes on within this district. And if there's this concern about what's going on, I don't understand why those members of the council, and I know, like I said, the mayor has been here many times, why they won't make the effort to come to these meetings to learn and come and ask questions. I would invite it.
I agree. I think for me, moving forward with having that type of working meeting will just allow both of these entities to sit together and understand what does the city have planned in terms of its efforts to move student achievement forward. What does the district have that we can collaborate with the city to do the same? So I don't really think, Mr. Spears.
I think it'll be a great platform to truly show exactly what's going on here. So I'm good with the meeting.
Excellent.
I am absolutely in line with it.
Well, I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Spears said. We have not had a meeting, a motion, a second, a discussion, or a vote for this particular meeting on July the 8th. It suddenly appeared in the paper unbeknownst to any of us, or at least to me or to Mr. Spears.
So this is what is considered, Mr. Dunn, help me if I'm wrong, but a special meeting? Is this a special call meeting?
If you or a majority of the board choose to call a meeting, then you can do that. You have the power to do that, and the majority of the board has the power to do that as long as you set the time, the date, and the purpose of the meeting.
But one question that I would like to put forth is that not only has the meeting been announced and we've received, praise for this joint effort, when I walked in the door, I didn't see a posting of the meeting on the door. So in a special call meeting, our policy dictates we have certain things that we can discuss and we can't deviate from them. So how am I to know what we're going to talk about?
Well, Mr. Spears,
if it hasn't been called, but it's been set and it's been, lauded in everyone that we're doing the right thing, we haven't once talked about what we're going to discuss there. And that goes back to the heart of my question is if there's something that needs to be discussed or questions or anything else, I think as we've afforded different people to come before us tonight, we would be more than happy to afford the same luxury to our elected officials. And at that particular point, in this particular forum, we have full reign as to what topics we can discuss.
I agree.
We're not limited to what's posted.
I agree. And I do believe that Mr. Dunn and I have an action to determine what that agenda will consist of, so that we can ensure that those items and only those items are what we take up at that meeting. And again, that meeting is scheduled for July 8th, as has been polled by this board.
It has not been
polled.
I have not responded whatsoever. I don't believe Mr. Spears has. And Mr. Dunn, correct me, if a meeting is called, a special call meeting, is it not required by law that within 1 hour of the calling of that meeting that a notice has to be posted on that front door?
That is correct.
Yes, that is correct.
And so, one last detail that I would like to point out here is that on this, the meeting hasn't necessarily had a place of meeting, and since this is them to want to talk to us about school board information, I would ask we have the meeting here.
Mr. Spears, according to item number 5, the July 8, 2014 meeting will take place at the Brandon Central Services Office at 6:00 p.m. It's item number 5.
But I would like to ask Mr. Dunn, since the meeting notice was not posted with 1 hour of this meeting being called, what are the legal implications, Mr. Dunn?
Well, the meeting hasn't been called yet officially. My understanding is,
Which is my exact point.
just because the paper reported that a meeting has been called doesn't mean the meeting has been called. And to my knowledge, I know the board hasn't acted because I've reviewed the minutes, but I don't think the president has called the meeting either at this point.
The last thing I have is that it's on here as a date for us to meet.
It's on here as information
Right.
that we know that we have polled, and at this point, if I'm not mistaken, Mrs. Ballard, the majority of this board says that that could be a good date to meet. Okay? Next, item number 6, July 11, 2014, there is a CMSD budget hearing for the public at 8:30 a.m. here at Brandon Central Services Office. And last, number 7, July 21st, 2014, CMSD regular school board meeting at 6:00 p.m. here at Brandon Central Services Office.
We may have discussed this in the past. I'm just not recalling the discussion. This is the third Monday as opposed to the second Monday. Did we earlier change this to the third Monday in July?
Mrs. McGill?
Yes, Mr. Lotzenheiser, in the schedule of board meetings that was adopted, we made a note that this meeting is the third Monday, and it is due, yes. Yes, sir.
Next, we come to such other matters that may come before the board. Board, are there any items that come before the board that needs attention at this time?
Yes, Madam
Mr.
President.
Spears?
I hate being in this position. I certainly hate being in this position, but I would ask, based off of the performance or lack thereof of this board tonight, to say we're championing student achievement. We're sitting here on the side of the employees, the staff, the leadership, and different things. I think that it would do this district service that each one of us submit our resignation to the city council, and every one of us not come back and harm this district any further.
Is that your motion?
It is.
Is there a second for Mr. Spears' motion?
I will second that.
Okay, it has been properly motioned by Mr. Spears and second by Mr. Lotzenheiser that this entire board submits their resignation to the city council,
That's who appoints us.
Okay. Mrs. Ballard, did you get all of that? All right, is there any discussion?
If I might say that, you're being appointed as an individual duty, right, privilege. I don't believe that this board legally, even if a majority of the board decides to, could do anything to cause any board member to have the duty to resign. In my opinion, it's not the appropriate action to be taken by this board.
Mr. Dunn, so should we then move forward and carry through this motion through with the vote, or?
I'm just saying that I don't believe that this board, it's within, if you look at the powers of the trustees, I don't think it's a topic that, a subject that you could act upon that would have any legal binding effect. It's just not something that you do. It's a duty privilege that you individually have, and you can't corporately decide to take action. I just don't believe it'll be binding, legally binding.
So, Mr. Spears, would you take back your motion and maybe make your motion just specific to you? And then, Mr. Lotzenheiser, would you take back your second and maybe make your motion specific to just you?
Well, let me just state, since we're still in discussion, that I think, regardless of the legality of it, it is a proper motion because, you know, we have stated many times, and I won't say specific names, that we're here to do the bidding of the stakeholders, the bidding of the children and different things, and repeatedly you vote against it. You vote against the children. You vote against everybody. So regardless of how individualistic your approach and your appointment is, if you're not here to do the job and what's right, why stay here?
Thank you, Mr. Spears.
So I'm not withdrawing.
You're not going to withdraw your motion?
No.
Mr. Latzenheiser, are you going to withdraw your second?
I will not withdraw it, but I just, let me just ask Mr. Dunn. I mean,
Okay.
even if we were to vote on this, no matter how it comes out, does it have any legal implication? Is it worth anything if we vote on it, or do you suggest that we withdraw our motions in second and just, you know, express ourselves about what we're frustrated about, or do you think that can there be a vote, I guess is what I'm asking you?
You know, yes, you can vote, but I do not believe that it is an appropriate thing. If you look at the powers of the trustees, the duties of the trustees, you're not going to find anything like that there. You don't have any authority. You didn't appoint yourself. Now, you could resign, but I don't believe that any action taken by this board is going to bind any other trustee. You all could vote, and it may be some symbolic thing, but I just don't think you have the legal basis to do it, and I do not recommend that you pass this resolution.
Well, thank you very much
not a resolution.
for making my point, because that shows just how insane and ludicrous the actions this board takes. That is one example of it, of many that has been or may not be recorded in the minutes. So I will take back my motion.
Mr. Latzenheiser, do you take back your second?
I will take back my second, but I'd like to kind of follow up on what Mr. Spears said a few minutes ago.
Okay.
And that is the people that we charge to run this school district on a day-to-day basis over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months have made a number of recommendations that they believe is in the best interest of children and learning, and very few of those recommendations have been approved by this board. And I think we're making it very difficult for them to do their job and to move this school district forward.
Thank you, Mr. Latzenheiser.
And Madam President,
Mr. Spears.
I understand that we removed the minutes from consideration tonight, but I would just like for it noted for the record that the minutes that were originally sent to be proposed were more than flawed. And now that we're setting a new precedent where, okay, we're going to take a vote as to what gets in the record and different things as to how this just come about tonight when these errors have occurred. And I assure you they were not, they were pretty deliberate because of the impending investigation from the Auditor's Department, from Mississippi Department of Education, Office of Accountability. I would just ask that these minutes and the errors that are within them be compared and shown for what they are. A deliberate attempt to hide the ongoing intrusion of this board in ongoing administrative roles that has been noted numerous times. So if we need to take a vote on that last statement, I know it's being recorded, so if you need the exact wording, you can certainly get it there. I would ask that I make that a motion to approve that statement to be in the minutes. The statement I just made, it's on record.
Your statement is there a second to Mr. Spears? Okay. It has been properly motioned by Mr. Spears that his statement be included in our minutes, and it has been seconded by Mr. Latzenheiser. Board, is there any discussion? All in favor of Mr. Spears' motion, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail.
The veil has been lifted.
Now, we would need to take...
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I have something on
Mrs.
such other
Fisher?
matters. Mr. Spears, I've seen your posturing hit a new low. When you would sit up and accuse our attorney, who looks over all the minutes, who holds us to a standard, which you played pretty loose with when you were president. And now that you're vice president, as recorded by the paper and your comments, your posturing has hit a new low. And Madam President, I would like to make a motion
Mrs. Fisher?
that Mr. Spears be recommended for censorship by the board, by MDE, for poor, underhanded, unintentional, but very successful bad conduct.
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Dunn, for matters of this nature, that is something that we would have to discuss in executive session. Is
No,
that
it's
correct?
Not according to Mr. Spears.
Okay.
It's not. But just to clarify, is it censoring me or censuring me?
You take a guess. You do the math.
I mean, you're the one proposing the motion. You got to be the
Mr.
correct.
Spears,
point
as
of
much
order.
as you have misspoken,
Point of order.
how dare you try?
Point of order, Ms. Fisher. Point of order, Mr. Spears. The motion is on the floor by Ms. Fisher that Mr. Spears be censured by MDE for his conduct here tonight. Is there a second for Mrs. Fisher's
I'll
motion?
second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. It has been properly motioned and second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Spears.
Just to clarify, we are censuring me, not censoring me, because that's already happened in the minutes.
We have that. All right.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion?
Wait a minute, I want to speak to this.
Mr. Lotzenheiser.
A couple things. The statement was made that Mr. Spears is vice president of the board. We don't have a vice president.
Absolutely.
We have a president and we have a secretary, but we do not have a vice president. I
Correct.
just wanted to clarify that.
Correct. We
And-
do
and-
not have a vice president, and
now.
it just kind of goes back to the point that everything that we read may not necessarily be correct at that
All right.
time.
The second thing, and I want to be sure I understand this motion, are you asking that MDE censure Mr. Spears, or are you asking that this board do that? Who are you asking to do this? And I guess the question, if we're asking MDE to do it, Mr. Dunn, do we have the authority to pass a motion to tell MDE what to do or what not to do?
No, sir, we do not.
And Madam President, just one comment, because
Mr.
if you look
Spears?
at Robert's Rules of Order, under the discipline, when it comes to disciplining a member of an assembly, when you're going to censure an individual, that would affirmatively come from you, the president, because you are presiding over this meeting. So that motion would be offered to the president, and it would be at the discretion of the president to bring that to the floor. That's Robert's Rules of Order, new edition. And it is the board
As
and
you
not
know,
MDE.
we don't always go by Robert's rules. We pick and choose what we want according to your
I
past
do,
performance.
I do not.
Thank you, Mrs. Fisher. Thank you, Mr. Spears. The one thing that I would like to say is that, you know, the board has come a long way from when I started a year ago. And I do think that there is some good that this board can do if we are allowed to move forward and not be hindered with issues that really don't amount to much. And I think we all understand exactly what that means. And I do think that it is incumbent upon us that we handle ourselves with a certain level of decorum when we're here serving in this capacity, because our children are watching, and we want to make sure that we're always being role models for them, and that we're being upright citizens.
So, Madam President, I ask, are you making the motion to censure me?
Mr. Spears, I am not making a motion to censure you.
Okay. Then that is a null situation.
It is no, but what I would ask though is that you do show respect and courtesy, that we all show respect and courtesy to each other, so that we can go forward and do what we need to do. I would ask that, Mr. Spears.
I will make a note of it.
Are there any other items to come up under such other matters?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lewis.
All right, we still have a motion and a second. Has the motion and
I-
second been
It's not
withdrawn?
proper.
It was not a proper
It was not
motion.
proper.
Okay.
And so therefore, it did not exist.
Okay, that's,
Thank you, Mr. Lotzenheiser. Mr. Lewis?
Madam President,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to request the attorney to help me because I'd like to make an action, and I'd like to make a motion that this board could ask the superintendent if she could get with her administrative staff and come up with a comprehensive or master plan for the athletic programs in our district. And I know that that's going to be more than what's on this list, but I'm just a firm believer that if there's a possibility that we can help some programs, let's do them all, because this document that I got tonight, a lot of times in this document it says all athletics, all programs, and what I'm saying is there's an opportunity that I'll be the first to tell you that I will vote for it if there's a proper opportunity to be more inclusive of other sports, because I've been hearing that, you know, we have a 6A team that doesn't have a hidden facility, but all of our sports are 6A, so let's do something to try to help, if not all of them, more of them, or let's come up with a plan where we can put them at a more competitive edge with their opponents.
So that is your motion, that is the action that you're asking.
I'd like to make a motion that we get a comprehensive plan, ask the superintendent to get us a comprehensive plan of our athletics.
Is there a second?
Second.
It
Is there a
has-
date on that?
She wants clarification. Mrs. Fisher wants clarification. Is there a date that you're asking for this information by?
Ms. McGill, I would like to see if we could possibly do it as soon as possible, but I will be fair to all that I know that, you know, once our budget is set, then I'm prepared to try to do what I can do to better those programs.
Mrs. McGill?
Ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and we have already begun that process. Unfortunately, when you're in the position that we and our district management team are in, you do often have to make choices, and that is what we did in bringing to you the programs that we did, because that request had been on the books for quite some time. So, but we will put together, and my thoughts are possibly put together maybe a Plan A and a Plan B, or a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, and that might still include some one-time expenditures. So we will put together some options.
Thank you.
Ms. Leistenheiser?
Yeah, Mr. Spears had said earlier that you have to take one step at a time, and I think what Mrs. McGill and the management team have put before us for the last 4 or 5 months is that one step, and I still favor that one step. I don't know what this is going to do, but I still think we need to take the one step, and I don't really see how this is going to improve the situation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Leistenheiser. So we do have a motion by Mr. Lewis, and we have a second by Ms. Fisher. If there's not any more discussion, all in favor of Mr. Lewis's motion, please signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? Okay. Please let the records note that Mr. Lewis's motion did pass. The vote was 3-2. So, Mrs. McGill, if you could provide that information to the board, we would appreciate it and look forward to reviewing that. Is there anything else to come up under such other matters?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, I would ask that the last, besides the vote, that the discussion be included in the minutes by each of the trustees.
Which discussion was that, Mr. Spears?
The discussion of the comprehensive plan and different things, and basically the administrative task that we have taken upon ourselves to do, instead of entrusting that to the individuals that we've put in the positions to do those tasks.
That's what we did. I entrusted it to the superintendent to ask if she would do it.
Right, and
So that is your motion, Mr. Spears? Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to Mr. Spears' motion? Mr. Leistenheiser? Okay, thank you. So it has been motioned by Mr. Spears, second by Mr. Leistenheiser. Is there any discussion?
yes.
Mrs. Spears?
To clarify exactly the point is that our administrators and management team have brought before this board numerous times recommendations of how they see best to improve this district moving forward. And those repeatedly have been voted down. And now we have said, we don't like it, so we're going to tell you go back and bring track and all the other different sports back to us so we can select the ones that we want to fund to improve. And that's exactly what was stated in that last discussion.
If there's no more discussion, all in favor of Mr. Spears' motion to have the discussion added to the minutes, please signify by raising your right hand.
I am not shocked.
All opposed, please signify by raising your right hand. The motion does fail. If there aren't any other items that will come before us for such other matters, Board, we would need a motion so that we can move to close determination.
Before we do that, I would like to ask that we take a vote to formalize this new process that we're going to use as to what gets in the minutes and what does not get in the minutes. Because as you just saw a perfect example of what I alluded to earlier, that if you don't want it in there because of your infractions, you're going to vote it down.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second to Mr. Spears' motion that we formalize this new process of formalizing voting on whether information is recorded in our minutes or not? Is there a second, Mr. Lotzenheiser? Okay, it has been motioned by Mr. Spears, second by Mr. Lotzenheiser. Is there any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Spears.
Just to clarify, if any trustee, not myself, states, Madam Secretary or Board Clerk, I would ask that this statement or the statements made by other trustees are recorded in the minutes. If it is pointed out in that open meeting that we are going over our line and not doing governance, that we are doing administrative duties, that now we are given that same power to say, oh, I'm sorry I did that, but I don't want it in the minutes, so we're going to have a right now to put our votes to vote it down. Is that what's going on here?
I think you've made your motion. Your motion has been seconded.
Right, and that's discussion. Because discussion is part of the motion.
I guess you can answer that question you're asking. Is that what you're alluding to?
Well, I mean, I'm just asking. I mean, is that what this board is working to do?
Does anybody have a response for Mr. Spears?
Because I joined the board in April of 2012, and there have been quite a few things that have transpired and have been recorded and different things. And now that we've asked the Department of Education Office of Accountability to come in, and one of the things that they do is review our minutes, and now it's all of a sudden that we don't want things to get in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Spears. Is there any other discussion?
I withdraw my motion.
Mr. Lotzenheiser, will you? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I do believe now that we are at the point of our meeting where we needed to have a motion to move to close determination.
So moved.
All right. It has been motioned that we move to close determination. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. It is unanimous. We will come out and share with the public what items will be taken up in executive session. We are now returning to regular session. At this time, it brings us to our last item on our agenda, which is for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
We don't really need it, I don't think, do you?
I already told them in the hallway what 3 actions were taken, so we're good on that end.
Been doing the adjournment with the motion.
No, but I just called for it tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Spears. I do by here declare this meeting adjourned.